If you pay even a bit of attention to the content of this channel or of this podcast, you would no doubt have noticed that I tend to shy away from putting out any trendy content that would most likely not age well. It's part of the reason why I don't talk much about transfer rumors, and even why I forgot to actually talk about the fact that both Memphis Depay and Hector Bellerin left FC Barcelona during the January transfer window of the season. Having said all of that, there is a trend I have been noticing on YouTube of content creators putting out videos talking about icebergs. No, not actual icebergs, but it's content that's intended to do a deep dive on a theme or topic that is of relevance to said channel. Now, ignoring the obvious nerdy theme of the examples I'm about to give, it's stuff like, say, a Naruto channel doing a Naruto iceberg video, and the same for a Harry Potter fan channel doing a Harry Potter iceberg, and the same for franchises like Star Wars, Star Trek, The Witcher, Marvel, DC, whatever, and so on and so forth. So I thought to myself, perhaps this could be a good opportunity to forego my ways of not jumping on trends, because this would be a nice way to talk in depth about FC Barcelona, which at the end of the day is what this channel and podcast actually exist for. Now, I will approach this Barcelona iceberg by breaking it up into levels, starting with the surface level stuff, which is maybe like things you'd encounter just as a new fan to FC Barcelona, or as just a person who first interacts with Barca. So it will mostly consist of, common terminology that's used in Barcelona. You can refer to it as terminology of the Cules if you want. From there, it'll go all the way through to the dark depths of some pretty niche and pretty dark information that only battle-hardened veteran FC Barcelona fans would be familiar with. Now, for the sake of palatability, I will break this up into multiple videos on YouTube, whilst for the podcast listeners, congratulations, you are going to get one super long episode containing all the levels of the FC Barcelona iceberg. So again, congratulations to you guys, and I guess it'll be a special treat because usually I don't put all the best stuff on the podcast. It just goes on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm working on that, guys, and I'm also working on getting the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Hopefully by the time this comes out, you'd be listening to it on Apple Podcasts as well. Yeah. So obviously it then goes without saying that if you like the sound of all of that, feel free to subscribe to the podcast and also to the YouTube channel, where you can also hit like and leave a comment in case there's any stuff you think I did not cover in this iceberg, or should I call it the Barca-berg. Now that we have gotten that super long intro out of the way, let's go right ahead and start with the surface level of the Barca-berg, and where better to start than with the club Crest. Whilst radically different from the original 1899 club Crest, the current iteration of the Crest dates all the way back to 1910, when it was chosen in an open competition, and since then it has only really been tweaked aesthetically. The bottom quarters of the logo contain colors of FC Barcelona, the blue and the red, and a bow, which is central to the crest, and of course the Barca style of play, the Barca way, the Barca DNA. Put a pin in that because we'll come back to it later. The top quarters contain the St. George's Cross on the left, representing the patron saint of Catalonia, and we also see present coat of arms of the city of Barcelona in form of the Catalan flag, also known as La Senyera, which is coincidentally where we will go next on the surface of the Barca-berg, because we'll talk about La Senyera. La Senyera, which means signal flag in Catalan, is of course a Catalan flag. It's a yellow field with 4 red stripes running horizontally or vertically depending on which orientation you're looking at it in. It is based on the coat of arms of the Crown of Aragon, though there is a legend that claims a great count of the region had fallen injured in battle and created La Senyera while on his deathbed. So according to this story, he stuck his fingers into his own wound Yeah, he stuck his fingers into his own wound and drew them down his yellow shield, creating the 4 fingers of blood that appear as 4 red stripes on the flag. So going by this Senyera kit Barcelona were wearing just last season, I think it's very much on brand because it does look like 4 fingers. Although, grantedly, those look like 4 fingers of like a predator or something like that. Anywho, speaking of kits, you can't talk about Barca-berg without saying the one word from which this channel gets its name, and that is, of course, La Blaugrana. Simply put, Blaugrana means blue and garnet. Yes, garnet and not red. And no, not garnet like the basketball player. For over 100 years, the colors blue and garnet have come together on the shirts of FC Barcelona players, and this is why the club is known as the Equip La Blaugrana, the blue and garnet team. But just as iconic and memorable as the words La Senyera and La Blaugrana are, is the term Cules. Now, if you can speak Spanish or Catalan, you'll be well aware that the word cule means butt, a butt. And I don't mean like a baseball bat, no, like human physiology, a butt. Ironically, though, this is a term that has come to mean a Barcelona fan. But how exactly did that happen? You might ask. Were Barca fans just being like total jerks to everybody and they ended up being referred to as Cules? Well, that wasn't the case, by the way. In the early years of FC Barcelona, while their stadium was still under construction, you could see people seated in the stadiums from outside. It just so happened that the part that was visible, on the fans who were sitting in the stands was their butts. And so with a hop, skip, and a jump, Barca fans became Cules. Now, moving away from our brief history lesson on anatomy, we have 2 more inseparable staples of the Cule vocabulary and must know for any newcomers to the Culeverse. Yes, I get Culeverse from Cules because, I think it sounds cool. Those 2 terms, phrases, names really that every Barca fan and any newcomer should be familiar with are Camp Nou and Cant del Barça. Camp Nou, or Spotify Camp Nou as it's known these days, is the home stadium of FC Barcelona, and it has been since its completion in 1957. Prior to its construction, FC Barcelona played all of their home games at Camp de les Corts. Yeah, these guys love their camps, you know what I'm saying? At the start of every home game, Camp Nou rings out with the song of Cant del Barça, or the Barca anthem if you'd rather, which was written for the club's 75th anniversary by the writers Josep Espinas and Jaume Picas, the former of whom sadly passed on Sunday of this week, like literally the 5th of February. RIP to him, with the music composed by Manuel Valls. Next up, we have the all-famous La Masia and Barca DNA. La Masia, or La Masia, is of course the name of FC Barcelona's famed youth academy, from which emerged arguably the greatest footballer of all time in Lionel Messi, as well as a whole host of other legendary figures in modern football such as, Pep Guardiola, Andres Iniesta, Carles Puyol, and current Barca manager Xavi Hernandez. You know what I'm saying? Football royalty here. La Masia, which literally means the farmhouse, is a football academy that was set up at the behest of yet another legend of the game, Johan Cruyff, and it seeks to develop players who are excellent athletes, taught to play in a style and system derived from Rinus Michel and Johan Cruyff's total football style, but also to ensure that these players are well-rounded people through granting them an education. So these kids don't just go to train and play football, but when they're not training and playing football, they're actually in school, in classes, getting an education, and just generally being taught to be a decent human being. These values and technical skills taught to youngsters in La Masia is what is widely referred to as the Barca way, or more specifically as Barca DNA. So if you ever hear a player being described as, having Barca DNA or being unable to play football the Barca way. Now you know where it's all coming from. It's just all based on, how Barcelona play football. The tiki-taka, for lack of a better term here, but we'll get to that anyway later on. And finally, we will round off the surface level of the FC Barcelona Iceberg, the Barca-berg. Sounds a lot like Zuckerberg, I don't know why, by talking about a slogan that is emblazoned on just about anything FC Barcelona, from the replica kits that you see people wearing to the seats of the stadium itself. A slogan that is truly at the heart of the institution that is Barca, the famous phrase Mes Que Un Club. It is of course a Catalan phrase once again that translates as more than a club, said to have been first uttered by former club president Narcís de Carreras in his 1968 nomination speech. Mes Que Un Club has since become synonymous with Barca and has become ingrained in the club's culture. For the club, this is shown in the day-to-day operations at La Masia, like we spoke of earlier, but also in the various humanitarian and philanthropic causes that the club has adopted, such as the partnerships with UNICEF and the UNHCR. But to put it in the club's words themselves, according to the FC Barcelona website, it is more than a club due to the fact that it is a members-led outfit with a unique philosophy promoting values such as humility, ambition, teamwork, and respect in all its sports. And yes, I said all its sports because FC Barcelona isn't just a football team. See, it's more than a football club. And that is where we end this look at the surface level of the Barca-berg, meaning that if you're watching this on YouTube, you have come to the end of part 1, and if you're still listening to this, go ahead and hit that like button. Let's get this video to 100 likes. Yeah, 100 likes, maybe 50. Come on, 100. You could do 100. All right, 100 likes, and I will drop part 2 within 48 hours. Also, do not forget to hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 3K subs. So let's dig into that Mes Que Un Club spirit and let's get this channel growing even bigger. Alrighty, with all of that said, I will now take my leave. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day and Forza Barca.